Well, welcome everybody. This is William C. D'Antuono, Editor-in-Chief of Railway Age, and I am very pleased to have with me in person, after a long time, our two Railroaders of the Year for 2022, Keith Creel, President and CEO of Canadian Pacific, and Pat Ottensmeyer, President and CEO of Kansas City Southern. And I think the reason why we have chosen these gentlemen as our co-Railroaders of the Year, the first time in a long time, is because of the historic nature of the transaction that is in process now. The transaction that, if all goes as planned, will form North America's first transnational railway, the Canadian Pacific Kansas City. Gentlemen, my congratulations to you both. Welcome. It's great to have you here. And as I said, it's great to see you in person. Big change from looking at you on a computer screen.
Great to be here, Bill, and thank you. I know I'm honored and I'm humbled for the recognition, but this isn't about me, it's about we. And when I say we, the CP family, 12,000 railroaders, their collective body of work that really earned a seat at the table to be able to pursue this historic combination with the KCS. And then the second part, the we is actually the KCS franchise and the team that we're going to get to partner with that we're so excited about. So again, thank you for the recognition.
Oh, you're very welcome. Pat?
Agree, Bill. It's great to be here, and thank you for this recognition. And I know you appreciate being a railroad fan as you are and follower of the industry, the historic significance of this transaction. It truly is going to be a North American rail franchise unmatched by any other, with just phenomenal opportunities given all of the factors that are taking place in the world of logistics and supply chain. This is coming together at exactly the right moment, and is truly going to be a formidable and unique North American rail franchise.
I guess my first question is, how did this all come together? You know, when you made your initial announcement in March of 2021, it was probably one of the best kept secrets in the industry. What's the backstory behind this?
Well, there's quite a bit of backstory.
Okay.
A lot of ups and downs, but if I go back to the very beginning, certainly the idea, the concept was well before I came to CP. In fact, Pat can probably share the history. This was something that our predecessors years ago had actually explored, but CP, as I understood it, as I learned through that initial conversation I had with Pat, because I was not aware of it at that time, CP did not have the balance sheet, didn't have the financial strength or the ability to have a seat at the table. So here we are, 2021, and we go back to 2020 when I made a phone call to Pat. I said, Pat, I'm coming to Kansas City. Do you have time to have lunch? We obviously own a joint agency yard in Kansas City, so I had a reason to go there. Pat said, sure I do. So we sat down, and at that lunch, I presented an idea, a concept about the possibility of bringing these two great companies, iconic companies, together to create an even greater company. We had a very exhaustive discussion about sort of hypothetically what that might look like, hypothetically what competitive responses might be, what the regulatory landscape looked like, all those things. Just an exploratory discussion that was the first of what became many discussions that finally came to a successful consummation of our merger agreement together the second time.
So, Pat, when you got that call from Keith, he said, okay, I want to meet you in Kansas City. Did you have any, maybe even an inkling of what he might want to meet about?
The topic had come up. I mean, as you know, and
Yes.
Everybody knows, the Kansas City Southern has been rumored or in the crosshairs, I'll say, for many times over the last 20, 25, however long you want to go back.
At least.
Yeah. And so it wasn't a surprise. It's a very natural combination. As Keith mentioned, we share a joint agency. We share a yard in Kansas City. 50-50 partnership, joint agency type of structure. They go north, we go south. We don't overlap by a single mile. We really never find ourselves competing with CP for business. We do a lot of things together. We got a great relationship. And so from that standpoint, it's a very natural fit. So I wasn't surprised when Keith kind of floated the idea.
Quite frankly, I talk a lot about this, but I believe these two companies come together because it's the right answer for North America. It's the right answer for our industry, but it is the right combination overall for both companies. You've got two like-minded companies. KCS, the smallest of the class ones. We were next to smallest. We both uniquely, we have to provide great service. We're very customer-centric, and we also have enjoyed, as of late, implementing the same operating strategies. So to be able to have all those things right, and especially in the regulatory environment we're in today, with the STB's mandate, to be able to have a formula that you could present to the regulator that increases competition and creates an opportunity for growth and an opportunity to take trucks off the road in a unique way that no other combination would represent, to me, it was a fate issue. And it was something that we're extremely proud to be a part of.
The future now. The timeline for STB approval seems to be pretty tight. You're anticipating getting approval sometime by the end of 2022.
Yeah, let me, I'll provide a bit of color there. So the regulator, the STB, they'll do a fulsome review of our merger application. But the thing that's unique again, and I say that word a lot, there's not been another combination historically in this industry under the old merger rules or even under the new that's so simple, that lacks complexity. There's no losers. There's, typically the complexity and the time is required because you've got customers that are losing options, perhaps. You've got complexities that just are not represented by our combination. When I say perfect, it's end-to-end. It's new lanes, new opportunities, new options for customers, new competition, not less in any way. So there's just truly nothing else that fits that mantra. And then the other point I think about, although 12 months to me is a meaningful period of time with the procedural schedule the STB has set forth, I look at history too. I do a lot of research. And to put it in perspective, think about the simplicity of combining our networks. Think about the complexity of combining a UPSB or a BNSF. Those timeframes for those two transactions are actually less than what we've suggested or what the STB has came out from a procedural standpoint.
Interesting.
So if they can achieve theirs with their
Yeah.
complexity, we certainly can achieve ours.
What does the merger of these two iconic railroads mean for North America, not only for our industry, but for the economy in general, the North American economy, but also taking that forward to really the global economy?
Sure. Well, from my perspective, what it means is growth, an opportunity to combine two of the smallest railroads into one very unique, larger railroad, still the smallest, but I believe the most relevant in North America, connecting all three nations, connecting the commerce that moves today and that will move tomorrow. To Pat's point about the perfect time, we think about, if we go back to when we first explored this combination in 2020, the thought of nearshoring, the thought of commerce, the thought of de-risking supply chains, those were all topics that we thought about and talked about. But if they made sense then, they certainly make sense now as we fast forward toward the end of 2021. So this railroad will create that backbone that connects all those supply chain partners, connects our customers to new markets, and creates investment in the U.S. rail network that will harden the infrastructure and create capacity for today's business as well as tomorrow's growth in a very unique way.
Pat, you and I have talked in the past about Mexico, of course, Kansas City Southern, de Mexico, USMCA. We've talked about things like nearshoring. So why don't you talk about some of those opportunities for growth? There's a port in Mexico, Lázaro Cárdenas. There's lots of opportunities there.
If you think about this moment, USMCA is just over a year old. So we have trade certainty, a new trade agreement for at least another 15 years in North America. You have supply chain issues that are, and there's no doubt this is happening, that are causing supply chain leaders, strategists, to rethink global extended supply chains, moving manufacturing and production closer to markets, and other things that are really changing the landscape of how leaders think about where to position manufacturing, supply, all of that. That we believe, I think Keith definitely shares my view on this, that not only will CPKC benefit from those trends, we can help drive some of those decisions. Because of the importance of rail, particularly, the poster child, the best example is the automotive supply chain. You look at where the auto plants and the suppliers and the producers are, and you overlay that on our network, it's a great match. And so I think we can actually drive some of those investment decisions because of the fact that we are going to be so critical in connecting those markets. And I know that is going to be a big topic of discussion with the presidents. I met yesterday in Washington with the relatively new finance minister in Mexico. The Mexican cabinet has done a study that their conclusion is if they can relocate 10% of the manufacturing that currently takes place in China and other Asian low-cost countries to North America, it would have a positive impact in the GDP of the three countries, ranging from about 0.5% to 2% in Mexico. 10% of the manufacturing relocating back to North America could increase Mexican GDP by 2%, almost 2%. So it's a big deal, and I think the Mexican government is very interested in making sure that we can align priorities and policy objectives across the three countries to drive to that outcome. So it's a great opportunity for North America, and the timing of putting these two companies together could not be better.
Would you agree that our industry is sort of at an inflection point or a turning point, given all the events of the past 2 or 3 years with the pandemic changing a lot of things, how we work, how we shop, for example, and all this, as you both have mentioned, the supply chain issues, problems. I would say that this industry has a real opportunity. We just have to grasp it. I'm sure you'd agree with that.
Yeah, I would agree completely. I mean, you think about, it's undeniable the importance of rail networks. It's actually, to me, a success enabler. You think about some of the challenge with the supply chains you're facing today. Think about the highways. Think about the infrastructure bill in the U.S. that just got passed. We're spending a ton of money to harden and to improve infrastructure in the U.S. public funds. This combination, private funds, take trucks off the road. It's great for the environment. It's great for congestion. It's just, and that's our transaction. But for the rail industry overall, as we become to evolve and implement being more service reliable, get to a scheduled railroad, so to speak, and become more truck-like reliable, you'll see more and more trucks come off the roads and create not only benefits for the railway, but also benefits for the public interest.
The only thing I would add is just we talk a lot about the notion of single line service. And I know people who are familiar with the industry, I think, understand what that means. But to a lot of people, I don't know that they fully understand how important that notion of single line service that we are going to be able to provide to so many new markets, big markets, huge freight markets, huge consumer markets. But single line service really comes down to making sure that you have total alignment and coordination of operating practices and philosophies, which we actually do today with our implementation of PSR, coming obviously years behind what Keith and CP have done, but very similar in terms of an operating philosophy. And then the capital investment strategies. It takes an awful lot of trust between two independent companies to align and make the capital commitments that are going to be necessary and are described in our merger application to get the capacity where it needs to be able to take advantage of the growth opportunities that we have described in the merger case, particularly intermodal, automotive, truck to rail conversion, up and down the network. It's just not reasonable to think that two independent parties are going to trust each other that much to make those kinds of long-term capital investment decisions that will improve service, improve consistency, reliability, resiliency of the service, to really get the momentum for particularly the truck-to-rail conversion opportunities that we know are there. If you look at our map, Mexico City, Monterey, up through Texas, Kansas City, and then kind of fanning out between Minneapolis, Chicago, Detroit, Toronto, that is a huge freight market, and it's a growing freight market, and it's dominated by truck. So all of that will come together in a way with the investments that we're planning to make to provide that kind of service consistency and resiliency that will be necessary to drive that growth.
So independently, Canadian Pacific and Kansas City Southern have been making major investments in infrastructure for capacity, for resiliency. One example is the big automotive distribution center being built in Mexico. On the CP side, there's been a lot of investment in port facilities and other things. But can you give us an idea of what are some of the joint investments planned? You don't have to give a dollar figure; those are always fluid. But in terms of infrastructure, and that's a big word these days, infrastructure. What are some of the plans?
This is going to unlock an opportunity, a financial case to invest order of magnitude about $300 million in the infrastructure. Infrastructure between Minneapolis, St. Paul, going down to La Crosse, Wisconsin, our route that parallels the west side of the Mississippi River to Kansas City, and then, of course, Kansas City down to Laredo. So if you break that down, it's CTC, centralized traffic control, which obviously has a capacity benefit and a safety benefit for the communities we operate in and through. It's also sidings, extensions, and new builds to the tune of about 30 over the first 3 years to prepare us for those synergies that we're talking about to get us started. So it's a substantial amount of investment in an underutilized asset. And to Pat's point, standalone, you could never justify doing that. But together, it unlocks that opportunity with that investment to create this rail backbone that we're talking about, which will uniquely benefit so many stakeholders.
So, Pat, in terms of infrastructure on the Mexican side and growth, there is that port on the Pacific coast, Lázaro Cárdenas, lots of opportunities there, lots of opportunities really for what we talked about earlier, nearshoring. Talk about that a bit.
It's an amazing place. If you can't go there physically, just spend a little bit of time on Google Earth and look at the ports up and down the west coast of North America. And what you'll see, for the most part, is ports that are in very heavily congested urban areas. LA, Long Beach, obviously the most, but that really don't have a lot of room to grow. And then go to Lázaro Cárdenas and see how much green space, how much extra land is built for future development, in addition to the terminals that are there today that have, I think, theoretically, probably 7 or 8 million TEUs of capacity between the two ports that are there. The other thing, the Port Authority in Mexico at Lázaro Cárdenas has spent an enormous amount of money over the years building rail infrastructure to connect all of that, roads, bridges, everything else. It's a unique piece of property, and I think there's just a tremendous amount of potential, a lot of interest, particularly now, given the congestion in Southern California and other ports for shippers and ocean carriers and beneficial cargo owners moving some of their freight to come into North America through Lázaro Cárdenas. And it's actually our route to get from Lázaro to Houston is actually 300 miles shorter than the shortest route from LA Long Beach to Houston. So long term, it's got a lot of potential.
Now, at the border, the U.S.-Mexico border itself, that is the busiest crossing. What needs to be done at a border that already, as far as I know, works pretty fluidly, but what else needs to be done to make it even more fluid than it is?
Infrastructure, processes, technology, we're working on all those things. On the infrastructure side, we have approval on the U.S. side to build a second span of the International Bridge. We are planning to do that in probably 2023, the heaviest year, but that will increase capacity substantially. The bridge we have today is a single line bridge. processes in terms of working with the customs and security agencies on both sides of the border. Really what we're hoping to do is to replicate at the southern border the processes that exist and have existed for a long time between the U.S. and Canada. Now, the security concerns are different, so that's going to be a challenge, but also working with labor to improve the efficiency of how we move trains across the border. I heard a quote recently from a group that was convened former ambassadors of Mexico and U.S. to talk about issues, and some of these things are going to be talked about in the summit between the presidents. And the quote was, "We have a 21st century economy, we have 20th century infrastructure, and we have 19th century processes." Not too much of an exaggeration. So over the years, we have located two inspection facilities on the north side of the border that are now shared by the Mexican and U.S. customs agencies, where there were two separate inspections and other things taking place on both sides of the border for northbound and southbound freight. We have consolidated those, working with the federal agencies to co-locate U.S. and Mexican customs in the same facility on the U.S. soil. That has really been helpful in streamlining the processes, but there's more work to be done.
It would seem to me that a lot of people are probably excited about putting these two companies together, and I would hope from all across the railroad, right from the switchman and brakeman and right up to the C-suite.
Well, you can imagine at CP, we've been through a range of emotions.
Yes.
We announced this historic transformational deal. Super excited. The whole company was energized and excited because we've always been an origin-rich network. We just were not blessed with the destinations that we needed to optimize our network. So we were very excited and then disappointed. But at the same time, through the battle, we stay focused. We stayed committed. And now that we've actually won the merger agreement again, and we're going to be the successful suitor, so to speak, and create a marriage for a lifetime between these two great companies. The pride that's in our company matches the pride that's in KCS. So many similarities. We turned 140 this year. So 140 years of proud history, tons of excitement. We honor that every day, but looking forward to the next 140. It's our job, and it's our mandate, and it's our objective to make those even better years. So we're super excited to get to work.
Pat, your perspective, interviewing you 2 years ago, I used the term fiercely independent. That has changed for the better. Your thoughts on that?
There's a lot of excitement at KCS, and Keith has done a phenomenal job of really the way he's communicated with the KCS family, things he's done to take some of the edge. Anytime there's a merger acquisition, there's going to be a certain amount of anxiety. But when we announced the second CP transaction and agreement, Keith and his executive team came to Kansas City. He wanted to be in Kansas City the day that we announced the merger agreement in September. And I think that was very impactful on the people in Kansas City. As you get further away from Kansas City, I think it's all positive. There's job growth. I was in Mexico last week. A lot of excitement from the Mexican side, employees and others who see this as validation that Mexico is an important part of the investment thesis in North America. In Kansas City, the fact that Keith has committed to relocating the U.S. headquarters in Kansas City has gone a long way in keeping people calm and focused on the opportunity and the upside, more so than the risk and the potential consequences of the integration process. But you've heard it 1,000 times here. This is not about cost cutting and closing facilities and shrinking and all of that. This is about growth. So the vast majority of people at KCS, I think, look at that and they see just how interesting and strategically significant this new combination is going to be, and they see that as a source of excitement as opposed to risk.
Pat, as you've said many times, and I think now it's both of you can say this with confidence, service begets growth. Those three words, I think, are the most important here when we're talking about this transaction. I think you'd agree.
I agree with you. I mean, that's what it's all about. I think, I forget who coined the phrase, you grow or you die. This company, this network, this team under Keith's leadership, just phenomenal opportunities. And right now, I think you look at this exact moment, you look at the service performance, the focus on customers that CP and KCS have. I don't think it's a stretch to say we're leading the industry right now. The growth opportunities are going to be there, and there's no question that we're gonna be able to execute and deliver that promise.
Yeah,
Your thoughts, Keith?
I would add to that if you think about what PSR is, services, it's number one. Service is our product. So if we don't have a service to sell in the marketplace, obviously it's going to impede our growth. The commitment that our company has, and I know Pat's team of railroaders has to service and to customers, it comes from, quite frankly, if we don't have good service, it's hard for us to compete with the bigger players that are in this industry. And I've said this: maintain our humility, maintain our hunger, and work to earn the right to move our customers' freight. If we take that approach and maintain that approach, and we will, as a CPKC, we'll create value across all stakeholders that is truly something to be excited about and unique in this industry.
Would you say that's an important message for the STB to hear?
I would say this is, without a doubt, a combination that creates new options for shippers. It is pro-competitive. As we said, we don't overlap by a single mile. There is not a single shipper that is going to lose options. This is a new single-line service in probably the largest and fastest growing freight corridor in North America. And we know, we're talking to customers all the time. They see this as a very attractive option to connect some of these big markets, give them more options than they have today. The other rail options will continue to be there. Obviously the highways, but I think shippers are genuinely excited about the possibility of new single-line service connecting some of the largest, fastest growing, and most important freight markets in North America.
This is about competition that allows that growth to be driven to this network. It's about job creation. It's about taking trucks off the road. 64,000 to start with a year. Think about the environmental impact of those trucks being minimized, how much greenhouse gas is saved. Think about the infrastructure across the nation. And finally, it's about investment. The U.S. rail network becomes stronger, not weaker as a result of this combination. There's not any redundant lines. It's all about enhancing what we have and increasing the capacity we have. It's not about reducing anything. So you put all those facts together. To me, if you're the regulator, you have a stronger U.S. rail network as a result of this combination in so many unique ways. I would believe that based on those facts, it would be a positive response from the regulator.
So finally, and this is for the enthusiasts out there and the enthusiasts in all of us, sometime in early 2023, if all goes as planned, that CP Empress steam locomotive, the 2816, will be fired up, and it's going to be rolling with a special train from Calgary all the way into Mexico. And I think she's been well kept, and we really look forward to that. A lot of people really look forward to that. Pat, you're going to have to get that locomotive across the border, the Mexican border.
We'll do that. That will truly be a historic photo opportunity event across the continent that probably has never happened. That would be a terrific event.
Yeah, the work is began. We're getting prepared for that. You can imagine that's a large undertaking, but it's one we're all honored and proud to be participating in. So a lot of excitement and energy around the 2816.
Well, Keith Creel and Pat Ottensmeyer, once again, congratulations. Our co-railroaders of the year for 2022. Thanks very much for joining me, and we look forward to seeing you both in person in March at our Railroader of the Year dinner at the Union League Club.
We look forward to it. Thank you very much, Bill. Again, it's our honor.
Now, thanks, Bill. I have very fond memories of my dinner in Chicago, and look forward to a repeat performance with Keith in March of next year. Thank you.